différentes présentations, même j'en ai fait là, concernant l'immigration, mais toujours demandé la même question. Qui ça qui plus problème pour eux? Qui ça qui fait plus peur dans la cause de l'immigration?
Especially since we see all of these things in the media about mass deportation, taking away TPS. It's a very scary time.
Surtout dans le moment ça, quand il a parlé de masse déportation, il a vu tout le monde tourner en masse, et puis le TPS a cancellé, et là ça, on dit genre un peu de stress.
I've also asked people, how often do you feel discriminated or wronged because of your status?
Il a toujours demandé combien de fois vous senti l'autre monde garder mal à cause ou pas de papier dans le pays.
And oh, sorry. That's a good idea. And can you? Okay.
Yeah.
So for this one, has anyone ever felt discriminated or wronged because of their status?
Son question li pose nous n'importe monde qui voulait nous doit répondre be ba idée non est-ce que nous pas consenti on l'autre monde garder nous mal ou bien juger nous mal à cause statut non quand nous beaucoup légal nous est temporaire nous ka ba idée non qu'est-ce qui
Oui, ma travail à côté là, on compare côté. Seulement un pays haïtien là-dedans. Il n'y a pas un statut, c'est TPS bien. Mais c'est comme si depuis à parler de tout le monde regarde c'est haïtien.
He's working in a company. He's the only Haitian working there. But he has TPS. They don't know if they have TPS. But anytime they're talking, they look at him.
Yeah. And that's a very uncomfortable feeling, and you're in a majority. People of all different ethnicities and nationalities feel that they have been discriminated. When I did a survey, about almost 70% of people felt discriminated or wronged. And so this presentation is going to talk about some of your rights, because it's one thing to be discriminated against, but we do have rights. No matter what status you hold, you have legal rights in the U.S. And the police officers, ICE, they don't often tell you what those rights are. And so it's up to us to stand up for our rights and to be educated on that topic. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, li fait étude, li pose une question, li fait research. Li joine 70% monde, il y a même problème immigration, quand ils intimidé, ils peur. Mais il dit malgré nous pas un statut ici, mais nous avons un droit. Quand il y a devoir là, il doit expliquer nous qui doit nous gagner dans le pays, parce que la police vient de côté, la police immigration c'est les ICE. C'est pas la police qui est dans la rue, il y a même spécialité de l'immigration. Là, ils viennent pas dire ils juste agir, mais ils peuvent expliquer nous qui doit nous gagner dans le pays. Peut-être une deuxième partie, nous pas gagner.
And can we move to the next slide?
Premièrement, je voulais remercier Laura Véronica pour le temps qu'elle prend pour être capable avec nous pour bénédicter nous dans la question immigration. I thank God, Madame Marcelique, madame ici, moi déjà c'est questionné. Moi je dis juste Elisabeth et puis they were silent, Pastor Simon to put it up. Et puis moi content pour moi et pour me tendre témoignage li. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for coming, and thank you for being here. It's a very important topic. And I've also asked people, like, after a presentation, what is the one thing you want to walk away from the presentation knowing? And a lot of people said new knowledge, more resources for my community, and more connections, because at the end of the day, the immigration process, no matter which way you take, is a very long process, and things change during those years. And no one will know the experience more than someone who's also going through it, because there is a lot of anxiety, there is a lot of out of your control. And so knowing that you have a community of people who support you going through that, I believe is really important. And I'm going to first just talk about some of the rights that you do have, especially because there are a lot of talk about mass raids happening, and we've seen in previous times how workplaces have been raided to make sure that people who are working have valid documents, have their valid work authorizations to work. And so I wanted to just touch base on a little bit of these issues. They're not so uncommon. The other day, one of my clients called me to tell me someone knocked on her door saying they were the police. She didn't know, like she was scared, she was home with her child, so she opened the door, they came in, they searched her house, and then she called me after, and the first thing I said was, oh my God, you did not have to let them in. And she said she didn't know, and she was just scared, so she opened the door because she said that they were the police. Can we move to the next slide? So at a minimum, every state provides minimum rights. The federal government can extend you more rights. And so, next slide, please. For the Fourth Amendment protects citizens and non-citizens alike from unreasonable searches and seizures. And so it's important to understand this. Even if someone does not have status and they're undocumented, does not give anyone the authority to go inside your house, to search your things, to get your passport, to see what status you have in the U.S. And so if...
Understand. They know English.
Do you yeah, if they prefer the interpretation, I can slow down.
Oh, okay. Nous comprenons bien. Ou pas obligé ouvrir porte là-bas. Yeah, he wants to know if ICE come, if they don't have the warrant, so if
No,
he
and
decide not to
yeah,
open.
and we'll talk about exactly what a warrant is, because ICE does have a warrant.
Il peut expliquer qui ça mandat est parce que ICE le plus souvent gagne.
But they only have administrative warrants,
Oh, ça gagne c'est administrative warrant lié.
which
So
is
il peut
different
expliquer.
from a judicial warrant signed by a federal judge.
Oh, les différents de ça juge qu'on signe pour bailler pour venir la caille.
And so we'll talk about that here, the difference between criminal and immigration.
OK. Là, pour expliquer la différence qu'il y a avec immigration avec criminel.
Okay. The next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, and so here on one side we have criminal, and on the other side we have immigration.
On bosse criminel, on bosse immigration. Pour expliquer la différence qu'il y a de.
For criminal law, if you commit a crime and you're not arrested at that moment, agents or officers can get a judicial warrant to go into your home to arrest you for a criminal crime.
Si vous faites un crime, vous pas arrêté au même moment. Quand il y a la police qui doit à côté, juge, un mandat, vous venez la caille, vous venez arrêter.
In immigration, the same thing. If there's a federal warrant, you can be arrested for a criminal crime.
Okay, explain to him what's federal law. Like if you for immigration, if you don't commit a crime.
Right, so being in the U.S. without status is not criminal, it's a civil violation.
Oh. Sous dans pays, on va aucun statut. TPS fini, on va renouveler, on va aucun visa. C'est pas un crime lié, mais c'est.
The difference there is, let's say you entered with a visa and you overstay that visa, you now have unlawful presence in the U.S.
Même genre, souvenir un visa fini, qu'on n'a pas aucun bail qui protéger dans le pays.
And technically, you're not supposed to be in the U.S. anymore.
Techniquement, on pas arrêter dans le pays, parce qu'on pas gagner qu'un bon dans le pays.
And But that doesn't give any ICE officer the right to go into your home to arrest you for that civil violation.
Ça pas by ICE. Ou kon différence dans ICE avec police civile yo, ça pas by ICE automatiquement droit pour venir la caille pour l'arrêter parce que visa fini. Parce que c'est civil violation lié, c'est pas un crime qu'on fait, c'est pas un fédéral crime, mais c'est une violation droit civique.
So if someone goes to your home and knocks on the door and they say, police, open up,
Si moun vin la caille frapper et dit police ouvre porte là,
first thing you should ask is, hey, slide your warrant under the door.
can we do that?
Yeah.
Ou demander pour mettre warrant là en bas porte là.
Can you go 2 more slides? And here I want to show you the difference, what those 2 warrants look like.
Can you blow it? Ça c'est deux qualités mandat que police gen doit gagner. Can you blow it? No? Okay.
The one on the left, that's an administrative warrant.
Ça qui est à gauche là c'est mandat administratif.
And at the top it says warrant for removal or deportation.
On a tête li l'a déjà dit mandat pour déportation depuis
On the other, the one on the right, it specifically says a U.S. District Court.
ça à droite là où elle marque United States District Court.
And the one on the right will be signed by a judge.
Ça à droite là on juge a signé. So the one for the immigration no judge signing.
No judge signs. The warrants for
juge pas signé.
the officer themselves sign off on that warrant.
Officier a c'est lui qui a signé là-dedans.
So that does not give them the authority to go into your house. The only way they can go in is if you say, you open the door and you say, okay, you can come in.
Pour y rentrer là, il faut que c'est vous-même, personnellement, qui ouvre la porte là pour dire, ok, vous mettez rentrer. Mais pas qu'à rentrer comme ça.
Okay? So it's very unlikely if you just have a removal order that a federal judge will sign a warrant to go into your home to arrest you for that.
Meaning they will not have this kind?
They will not have this kind to go inside your house. They would have to wait, and usually what they do is they wait for people to go out in the public street, to walk to work, to be outside, because this level of protection is only for the home. So when people have an outstanding deportation order,
question frère a demandé à si quand les police n'envoie là bas porte là ouais qui sont papier qui dit pour yo déporter ou qui ça vous fait ou gain protection soit dans la cas ou gain protection yo pas qu'à rentrer vinn prendre mais coup sorti dehors soit dans travail ou dans la rue qu'on y a yo gain droit prendre.
and that's why they go to people's workplaces, because there's not the same level of protection there.
Et ça fait dans travail moun ou toujours tendé y a dans travail ou a demander tout le monde qui a un papier pour yo déporter parce que là on va une protection seul là cas ou une protection.
Or they're like station a car in front of the house to wait for people to go to work and then arrest them on the street for the outstanding deportation order.
Et ça fait toujours mettre machine devant quand mon a veillé ou sortir ou quitter quand on prend la rue et arrêter dans la rue.
So if someone has an outstanding deportation order, they should go to a lawyer to see if there's any avenue that they can take to reopen that case and to seek some type of status.
Si on mon gain ou déjà, let me ask you a question. Is it after you saw a judge?
For the deportation order, yes.
So what about that massive deportation? Are they going to go to judge for all those people?
So that's a good question. So the way that they haven't set a specific plan on the way they're going to target this mass deportation, but if you are in the US and you have a pending asylum application, you have TPS, you have a adjustment, like you're adjusting based on family, those things, they will not be able to deport you right away if you have those things in place.
Si quand ou ici déjà un TPS qui est approuvé ou bien asylum qui en process ou bien famille réunification, quand il n'y a pas qu'à on peut déporter. Mais si c'est monde dans comme Biden qui vient ou pas 2 ans arrivé ou pas gagné ou pas de fil pour TPS parce que Biden te dit tout le monde mettre fil pour TPS. Si nous pas de fil pour TPS nous pas gagné, nous dans catégorie côté yo ka déporter nous, mais c'est pas dans cas nous y a prendre y a veiller nous devant.
But if a person has an outstanding deportation order or order of removal, then they could technically be removed right away without seeing a judge.
OK. Si mon a déjà gagné ou qu'on a gagné c'est de monde qui déjà gon cas, il y a devant juge, je déjà dit non, il y a déporté. Depuis que tu as un ordre pour déporter, c'est ou bien on va côté un avocat puis ça le fait pour ou bien il y a depuis on prend il tout maintenant côté maintenant là pour aller.
There are other safe places, like in New York City, courthouses, some churches, like some states have designated churches as safe spaces where immigration can't go to those places to just arrest people for immigration purposes.
Gen côté tant que New York, parce que New York c'est sanctuary, is that the name? Sanctuary state or city. Yo pas qu'à yo gen place quand yo gen série de l'église, une série de centre côté où gen doit aller. C'est à dire qu'on ambassade lié. De pour là il va rentrer venir pour même si ou pas gen statut, pas gen visa ou pas gen de point dans place ça il va venir pour.
And if you are arrested, you have the right to remain silent.
Si vous arrêtez ou pas parler, tant pour chercher un avocat. Si vous tapez dans la rue.
And if you are arrested, the first thing you should do is, I want to call my lawyer to guide you through what options there are throughout the process.
Depuis qu'on prend nous, premier ça nous fait, nous dit nous besoin d'avocat parce que c'est payant comme ça fonctionne, il y a pas non avocat quand même. Mais pas parler. Il n'y a pas de monde depuis qu'on prend, il y a des parler. Oh, visa me fini, ça me va le faire dans le pays, mais après crier, pas parler, pas dire rien. Seulement il y a un avocat. Can I ask one question? Yeah. I know the plan is to terminate all those sanctuary cities. Is that going to be in effect?
So the federal government can impose on each state where they want to. It's going to be a battle of the state and federal.
Oh, okay.
So the state designates in their own state what they qualify as sanctuary places.
So federal cannot just eliminate them?
Federal cannot, and then if the federal government pushes back, there's going to be lawsuits, like between the state and federal, on what they can and can't do.
Parce que nous connaissons de Californie, New York, il y a un sanctuary city côté moun de pour là ou couvrir en bas immigration loi même si c'est fédéral. Mais dans le plan de Trump, il dit pour éliminer tout bas ça, pas un côté qui couvrir monde. Avocat dit il prend on bataille quand il prend la côte state prend la côte avec fédéral puis aussi au cas.
And I don't want to talk too because but preparing for the future, it's always best to have all your documents in a safe space where someone can get them, because when I handle cases where people are detained, the hardest part is getting the physical documents.
C'est toujours bon pour nous kéber tous ces documents, tous papiers dans un seul côté. Et puis faire mon connaître parce que quand yo arrête nous connaît téléphone nous y apprend tout bagage ou pas accès à rien quand y a l'heure les avocats problème qui gagne c'est joindre document pour bailler avocat yo pas jamais ka joindre parce que moun n'a pas ka la caler moun n'a pas ka montrer dans téléphone et puis moun la caille pas contre côté papier so toujours préparer un paquet mettez le côté faire mon connaît ou bien ba on moun nous faire confiance kembe si arrêter nous connaît. And
the best things to have if you're filing your taxes, put all those in place. If you have children born in the United States, have those birth certificates there.
Si nous faisons fill in contact, si nous avons des gens qui fait ici, n'importe bagaille que nous gagnons, nous pouvons prouver. Nous sommes longtemps, nous avons même petit papier dry, parce que c'est date là, nous avons besoin, nous avons besoin. Mettez tout dans seule enveloppe, bah, au monde nous fait confiance. Qui, un citoyen peut-être, ou bien au monde nous connaît qu'à prêter dans le pays. Qu'est-ce pour nous, si nous avons un problème pour le cas.
Letters from the congregation, you're all attending, all of those are
Dans
good things
l'église,
to have.
n'importe bagaille qui ont date, il y a mon papier qui est docteur, toute qualité de bagaille qui a aidé nous. Hold on.
Moi dis bonjour à chaque monde qui est là et moi remercie l'avocat pour le temps pour les partager connaissance ça avec nous. Donc moi t'as me connais papier ça pour nous sérieux t'as qu'on dit même papier dry, papier l'hôpital sous quoi qui fait ici tout ça. Donc qui ça y a pas utile si on t'a arrêté.
She wants to know those documents. What are those documents going to help? Like the kids born here, those paper.
Yeah.
So if she's in jail.
It would help with requesting a bond to get a person out of jail. Because when you're detained, if you have no crimes, the first thing is to get you out of detention.
Ok, parce que si vous pas fait aucun crime, ou dans la prison, premier ça besoin pour prouver. Quand vous avez besoin c'est des documents pour prouver, puis vous avez une bonne. Bonne c'est l'argent pour vous payer, pour vous mettre dehors dans la prison. Et puis après ça, quand il là, il va commencer.
And in detention, that's a good question because when you're detained, the judge has to balance two things. Are you a flight risk and are you a danger? And that's what they're looking. If a person has a lot of crimes and a judge thinks that that person is likely to be a public safety threat, they're probably not going to issue a bond.
Là, dans la prison, quand le juge là, avant de déterminer pour bon bon, pour mettre dehors avant à la tribunal, il faut juge là ouais est-ce que c'est un high risk ou quand un monde qui criminel ou bien si c'est un monde ou cas sorti la partie quand un monde dit oh il y a un bâtiment qui est en Mexique et tout quand il faut juge là déterminer ça la plus papier gain c'est plus que qu'a prouver quand
If a person has no crimes and they're being detained, showing that they've been in the U.S., they've paid their taxes, they have children, they've been contributing to society, increases the likelihood that they will be released on a bond or released by immigration, who can also release people.
C'est quand ou dans prison, il y a pas de jamais fait crime, il y a son monde qui stable, ou fait un contact, ou tape travail, ou contribuer dans la société, ou dans l'église, ou appartenir. Quand vous conseillez de bagaille, vous faites un petit monde, vous faites ici, petit monde dans l'école. C'est pas mon cap hap semaine ça vous été là l'autre semaine, au Floride l'autre semaine. Quand vous stable, et là ça a prouvé que oh monde ça stable, il pas courir. Là tant jour pour la dans jugement parce qu'il faut aller dans jugement même si le méthode dehors mais bon le quoi dans jugement.
Ok. Tout à l'heure, nous avons parlé de couverture TPS. Donc, si on a un TPS qui finit, et puis il y a le refait, le président Biden a dit ça, il y a le refait, et que vous pouvez voyer pour lui. Est-ce que vous avez une couverture? Et puis, si on a un programme Biden dans le vini, et que pour 2 ans, est-ce qu'il y a une couverture quand même?
Si on monde venu dans le programme Biden, non.
In English.
I she's basically asking. That's so funny.
I know,
all the time.
that happens too.
That's a common question. She's basically saying like, okay, when the we call it the Biden program, the humanitarian, the CHNV program, the humanitarian. When that is over, basically, like, what can be like a pathway to like status, and then like, for the humanitarian program, it's for 2 years. What if you haven't stayed in the country for 2 years? Do you still have that as legal protection?
Okay, those are good questions, and we'll move there. And this is meant to be a general overview, not specific legal advice, because I would need to review everything. There's so many little things that can change a response. So this is like general for education purposes.
let me ask her something first. Mon nan fait le TPS quand même? Est-ce que vous répondez? Vous dites que vous acceptez? Vous beaucoup voyez 4 là. Okay, the person already filed for TPS. They accept, but they don't send the card yet. She wants to know if it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Is it covered?
So generally, if a person files the TPS application and they get the receipt notice, that is sufficient until the work authorization comes. Just because you don't have the physical card doesn't mean that you're not protected under TPS, but you do need to have that receipt notice, the notice of action.
Yeah. Depuis que vous reçu, oh bless you. Depuis que vous reçu, vous protégez, même si vous n'avez pas un 4 là, vous protégez. I'm going to ask a question to follow up on her. I know at work, they usually want the card, not the receipt. So if you're at work and then your TPS expired, can you show them that you have the receipt?
Yeah, and there's automatic extensions that are on the USCIS website, but I've heard some employers want to see the actual card, but technically it's automatically extended because the government recognizes how long they take in mailing those cards.
So how do those workplaces going to know about the extension?
So you could print out the USCIS, on the USCIS website, if you go TPS Haiti, it'll show you the redesignation, the top things that have been decided. You could print that out. That's for work purposes. I think it'll be up to each company on how they want to deal with that. But in terms of immigration enforcement, that receipt notice is sufficient. Immigration should be able to look you up on systems to see, okay, the application was sent, it's pending. They don't always do that, so it's better for you to have your receipt to show them and save all of those copies. Never give originals, because you will not get originals back if you hand them over.
Person was filed the paper under the TPS, they can go ahead and get the extension. Some employer they will take it, but if they was under asylum or if you have your previous card under the Biden administration, even you file TPS right now, you will not have the extension.
Yep, and that is for the renewal, like what you're talking about. It's the difference between the renewal and the initial. So a work authorization is always connected to either a form of relief or a policy program. So they come together. So if you have your TPS work authorization, which was connected to your TPS application, those go together. If you then want to file for asylum, because let's say you have a strong claim, you consulted with a lawyer and you have a strong claim, so then you file your asylum application, it's better to then file another work authorization connected to your asylum application. The categories will be different and the terms will be different. Right now, asylum work authorizations are granted for 5 years. That's something that Trump will probably change. So it's better to file if you qualify and you would have your 5-year work authorization.
The TPS.
That was a lot, sorry.
I know. Papier travail là, il est toujours attaché avec un autre programme. Et que là, si c'est TPS là, il est attaché, si TPS là fini 2 ans, papier travail là fini tout. Mais si avec asylum là est pour 5 ans. Et que là, il est attaché avec, et que là, il est bon pour 5 ans. So si on a un TPS, on senti plutôt faire pour asylum, mais avant de faire pour asylum, il faut un avocat pour garder toute bagaille pour aussi la plus bon pour. Mais là, ça même si tu as un papier de travail qui est attaché à TPS, il faut refaire un autre pour qu'attacher qu'on y a avec asylum. pour le bon 5 ans. Asylum c'est asile politique. Asile, le monde dit on va le faire pour asile. Chaque bagage a un bon côté et un mauvais côté. She wants to know a little bit more about the asylum. She's going. Okay, she's going.
Okay.
So questions for that.
We can, can you move 2 more slides, please? And we'll just go through can you move 2 more slides, please? We're going to go to, 1 more. Thank you. Okay, so this is the most important part. Like, anytime you have a pending application, it's like holding an umbrella over your head. You're not exposed to immigration. And so you may have to go through several umbrellas before you get your legal status. And that's what knowing the different types of relief that are available to you, so you know when to switch so that you're never exposed.
Oh, that's okay. You can continue.
Okay. And so let's say you have TPS. People who have been in the U.S. since June 3rd, 2024 can file, continuous residents can file for TPS. That's set to expire February 3rd, 2026. We don't know if Trump will extend that. In his previous term, he tried to pause that. It was litigated at the courts, and ultimately it lasted after he was already not president anymore, and Biden re-extended it. So if we see this happen again, it will likely be challenged, making it longer for him to actually take TPS away.
Pour TPS, pour Haïtien que TPS, il y a jusqu'à 3 février 26 pour le programme n'a fini. Après ça, il par contre ça Trump pas le faire parce que nous sommes la première fois il était campé, mais tout le monde était à l'encote, il était obligé de renouveler. Mais il faut qu'on qui ça va le faire là. Mais si TPS n'a pas le finir, renouveler parce que il est bon jusqu'à février et nous avons 2 ans toujours là.
L'idée dit avant, juste objectif nous parce que nous connaissons les difficile pour adjuster statut, mais il est très important pour entrer dans le process légal. So depuis où monter juge mon immigration ou non process légal, même si pas rien qui tombe, ça bon pour la protéger.
And so when, like, TPS is temporary, but there's, if family-based, so if any of your family members, your father, a spouse, siblings, children, if any of those people in your family have status, you may have an avenue. A lot of times the wait times are very long, so you want to patch together maybe temporary forms of relief until your more permanent avenue comes.
Quand on a famille, maman, papa, frère, soeur, n'importe qui a un bon document ici, pour nous-mêmes qui pas rien, commencer, même si c'est un temporaire, nous commencer à qui forme qui travaille pour nous jusqu'à ce que l'immigration vienne en bagage permanent. Et ça fait une série de cas, nous obligés c'est avocat pour nous parce que nous pas connaître qui ça est bon pour nous.
And it's important to recognize that from the beginning. So if you know, maybe your father, let's say, he's a permanent resident and he has 1 more year before he can become a citizen, you want to encourage him to do that so that he can petition for you. And meanwhile, you either have pending asylum or your TPS is pending, so that when that all happens throughout time, then you can adjust your status to permanent.
Quand c'est ou gain papa ou mon peut-être sœur n'importe monde qui peut-être c'est un an manqué pour faire citizen quand vous encourager pour couleur arriver pour faire application et puis même pendant ce temps cherchons l'autre petit bagage à côté ou faire parce que toujours gain asylum TPS toujours gain l'autre programme cap aider aucun parce que you short you pas pour longtemps.
And the good thing about the parole and the TPS programs is that for most times when you're adjusting, like if you marry a citizen and you want to become a lawful permanent resident, you need a lawful entry.
En pile fois, nous connaissons moun yo toujours dit pour le marier puis yo ka gen papier quand faut qu'on gagne un bagage qui légal comme on te rentrer dans pays qui légal pour commencer l'application.
So if you came in with the Biden parole, or if you use CBP-1, or sometimes people who just cross the southern border and express that they're scared to go back, they're actually paroled in and they're given a stamp.
Tant que moun qui vient dans Biden, moun qui traverse les frontières, yo leur vini quand yo ba yo so yo mette sous passeport qui ba ou parole sont illégal quand moun entre dans le pays légal. Yo pou gen so, mais son j'étais un groupe moun qui te traverse pas jam gen so sous passeport.
I had a client who came to me, she was married to a US citizen and she didn't know she had the stamp.
Oh, les gens moun qui li marié avec un citizen. Mais pas jamais connaissais de gen so na passeport.
And so she was going forward with an asylum claim, and when I saw she had the stamp, I said, you should just do the adjustment and then we can move to close your asylum case.
Li ta pral faire asylum parce que pas jamais connaît s'il gen so na passeport. Quand il a le vinn ouais ça, il dit là non OK, pas besoin faire asylum quand il a fait l'autre application parce qu'il est marié avec un citizen. Et ça fait toujours bon pour nous ouais un avocat là nous pas sûr.
And for asylum cases, they take a really long time. If you were paroled in, chances are you're first going to go before the asylum office, not the courts.
Quand vous appliquez pour asylum, son process qui long en pile. How many years?
Maybe 5 years before you get an interview with the asylum office.
5 ans avant pour faire première interview avec l'officier.
And the office can only grant your application or refer you to the court. They cannot deny your case.
Lo aller dans office là, c'est ou bien yo accepter application là ou bien yo voyer dans court. Yo pas automatiquement dire yo pas accepter.
So if you're waiting for a visa that maybe takes 6 years, you know, I know it sounds like a lot of time when you're first starting and you're like, oh, I'm not going to file it because it's 6 years, it's ahead of time. But you should always file it if you have that avenue to you.
Si quand vous pas gen l'autre moyen encore ça c'est pas dire trop long c'est 5 ans que vous faites parce que c'est toujours bon qu'on gon bail qui and those 5 years they can work.
Yeah, so the asylum application always provides a work authorization after you can file it after 150 days that your asylum application is pending.
Ok, après 150 jours qu'on finit faire l'application pour asylum, nous allons faire l'application pour travail. Et pendant 5 ans, on attend, on travaille. C'est vrai que on pas bon papier pour travail.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yes. You want to give him? Hold on. She's going.
Question c'est que I felt like I did the Biden for my sister. She's here in the United States right now, and she did apply. She got the TPS right now, but I was debating about because I'm a U.S. citizen. Is it possible to file I-130 for her?
Yes. So a U.S. citizen sibling can petition for their sibling. The wait right now is 20 years but the visa bulletin changes. So I would say if that is the only thing available to her, how about your parents?
My mom is here, but she's not a citizen. She's not a citizen.
When can she become a citizen?
For the year she already passed the 5 years, but she doesn't speak English. We tried to see what can we do, because I was read somewhere in the immigration thing she can find a letter from a doctor, but I was trying to see if we can find something like that, and because she's the year she's okay, but they gonna need to put something. There is something I don't want them to put in the letter. I'm still trying to see if we can find something else.
Okay, so let's say you file for your sibling, and there's a wait. The visa bulletin changes every year. When it was under Trump, the visa bulletin moved faster. cases were moving faster. So it was previously about 10 years. So let's say you file for her. She has Biden. She applies for asylum, trying to wait. Once asylum is filed, it stops unlawful presence. And that's important for a sibling-to-sibling category. But your mother is also a person she can use to waive unlawful presence here, saying it would be a hardship to your mother, her mother. So she would be covered. Asylum would cover her, and let's say she is exposed to some unlawful presence, even if your mom is an LPR, she can still use your mother as a qualifying relative to say if she's removed, your mother's going to suffer. And that can forgive the time that she's here without presence.
But right now, can we put it under my mom because even she's not a citizen?
No, you have to be a citizen to petition for an adult child, an LPR child. But there are exceptions to the English test. One is like the years, like you have to be here for 10 or 15 years. You can take the exam in your foreign language, and then the medical exceptions that you talked about.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ok, merci beaucoup. J'ai une question qui fait suite avec, alors, sur même ligne avec frère Onel. Donc, maman, elle a 69 ans. Elle était allée pour le faire citizen. Quand elle est là, elle était perdu rendez-vous. Elle était perdu rendez-vous. Et que, il dit comme ça, il y a une lettre. Il dit, il dit, là. Mais que il y a une lettre pour expliquer pour qui ça. Parce que normalement, nous avons des fins citizen pour être capable de faire pour nous. Donc, il dit, il y a une lettre là depuis 15 ou bien 16 novembre, il n'y a pas de chambre voyelle. Et qui ça, vous pensez que je vais faire dans ça? Et est-ce que je vais avoir un avocat pour ça ou bien est-ce que je vais attendre toujours?
Her mom is 69. She filed for U.S. citizen, but she missed her appointment. So, because she was waiting for her mom to be a citizen to apply for her. But she said they would send a letter to explain. So it's like 2 weeks already. So she said if there is something she can do, take a lawyer or what usually.
So she missed the interview. She didn't go to the interview. And then you wrote USCIS a letter?
No.
No. The first thing you should do is write a letter explaining the reason why and ask for it to be rescheduled. That's the first thing you should do. A lawyer can help you do that because you don't want it to be denied because she failed to appear, and it could be considered an abandonment. Oh, they sent a second.
She said they already, when she go to look at in her case, they said they denied her already.
And what was the reason she didn't go?
Then, Pukisal Batali.
Did she not get the letter for the appointment?
Yeah. Very important, Pastor. The brother said it's on the 20th, but the date was the 2nd, 2/20.
Okay.
Need glasses. Yeah, I think the brother need glasses also.
So in a case like that, like let's say you didn't get the notice. You can file an appeal of a denial. The appeal costs money and it takes time. Sometimes it's easier to just file again because it's faster and it's still money. If
Ou bien deux choix. Ou bien, parce que c'est faute ou pas faute immigration. Ou bien doit réappliquer encore. Tout l'argent est payé ou après. Ou bien ou fait appel quand vous mettez un avocat. C'est même bagarre toujours payer avocat, toujours dépenser encore. C'est qui pour nous connaît fait voyez papier à l'état, il prend plus de temps.
If there was a reason, like you did not get the letter,
It's online.
that might be something where they would reopen the case to then give the interview. Or if she was very sick and she couldn't make it, that might be a reason why they would reopen.
Si vous êtes malade, il faut le papier docteur. Ça, il y a fait un pour. Si ou même pas recevoir notice là du tout, ou bien doit dire ou pas jamais recevoir notice là. Mais quand il y a tout bail online, on va pas bail mentir.
But if it was like a mistake like that,
Yeah.
I don't think that they would reopen.
Yeah.
So you'd have
It's
to file
okay.
again.
Yeah, it's a big mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Any other questions?
One more question.
Yep.
Somebody filed for, they got the I-130 for the kids in Haiti, and then now the kids was travel and then have a chance to get granted parole across the border, and then the kids is right now, right here. They want to know exactly what should they do right now. They still got the case, the I-130.
They're adult children?
How old? How old?
Yeah, the adult.
Okay,
They already married, have kids.
okay. And how long is the wait for them? Like, when did they
Since,
file?
2017.
Okay. So, with parent to adult child, they don't want to fall within unlawful presence. That's the factor there. So if their parole will be close in time to when they can file for the adjustment, then they don't need to do anything. So, are you familiar with the visa bulletin?
I heard about it.
So if you go, I wish I could, let me show you here, because I think it's, I'll turn the screen. The U.S. Visa Bulletin is a good place to see priority dates. So it's really important to have the receipt notice of of this receipt, like when they initially filed the I-130. So if you go to travel.state.gov, or if you hit USCIS,
Travel state.
let me see the exact. Yeah, it's travel.
Travelstate.gov.
That. And then here is the chart. So you would look at, let's say you filed, or she filed a petition in 2007.
Yes.
So you will look here, right now they're adjudicating, they're getting applications filed August 1st, 2007. But in this chart, the chart under says when you can file. So if they, if it's 2007, they'll be able to file based on this chart and based on that chart, based on the priority date. So if they file, that freezes any unlawful presence. So once your unlawful presence is frozen, you're good, you're protected. If that parole expires before they have the ability to file that application, then they need to either see what they can do to not have unlawful presence or find a way to waive that. So parents are one of the qualifying relatives where they can waive things like that for hardship to a parent. So then they would just have to show why they cannot be removed, why that would create hardship for her mother. It was her mother?
Yes.
Yeah, why it would create hardship for her mother. That is a separate application that she would have to file. That application is $745 right now. So, seeing when her visa expires, what is the Visa Bulletin Board doing right now? Can she file for the adjustment? If not, what else? Can she do TPS to give her an extra time where it would freeze her status?
She got here after the
after the cutoff.
But for now, she cannot do anything. Like she was coming, and I know they already filed because they have the I-94. They filed for authorization employment under the I-94.
Mhm.
Send them the notice. They have to do the fingerprint.
Well, when does it expire? When does her parole expire?
It's like 2 years.
Okay, so she has
They
just
do
2
have an
years.
appointment for 2026.
Okay. So she has some time. And then for cases like that, it's good to go to a lawyer with all your paperwork. Always bring everything, tell them everything. That way, they can really analyze and see what's the best option. And a good lawyer will give you several options. Like, okay, these are the options, I think this one's better. That way, you can decide what's better for you and your family in those cases. You're welcome. I do. I'm there in my pocket. Okay.
I have a question on the immigration thing. Because I used to have out, like when the Biden come up, I was like, yeah, all my people at the church, and I used to do it for free.
Yeah,
And,
that's good.
Based on this, everybody kind of, right now I said I'm going to charge them a little bit of bill and they have to fill out the TPS, but I still have a lot of questions to answer for them based on this. And that's why I might need to have your card.
Yeah, I'll give it
If
to
I
you.
see any case, because my brother has an office in Florida, he didn't do immigration, but when they come and went to his office, he just told them, oh, my brother do immigration, and just put him on my side. But I didn't do like asylum. I always advise them to talk to a lawyer, because the asylum, you have to redo all this.
That's really good because asylum, a lot of people think it's just an application, but it's not.
Now figure it out is more, and they
Yeah,
have to,
that's-
sometimes they have to tell you a story, you have to work on the story, make it a little better.
Yeah,
It's a little bit, lying them to, I don't want to get too.
Right,
I
and-
said the lawyer might be better for that, and that's why I'll get your
yeah,
card.
thank you. And I think for asylum, like when people are going to apply, the most important thing to understand is it's not about the harm you suffered, it's about do you fit within a category.
Asylum, c'est pas tant que ça a besoin qu'on ait, c'est est-ce que ou en catégorie parce que les va dans quelle catégorie ou tomber. C'est ce qui est important.
And there's 5 categories.
Oh, il y a 5 catégories.
It's nationality, political opinion,
Oh, code de sortie nationalité ou politique. Asylum pour politique, ou
religion,
religion.
ethnicity,
Oh, qui catégorie monoye, ethnicité. Quand
And
c'est
membership.
noir, blanc.
and membership in a group.
Sous ces membres dans un groupe. Et ça fait une application d'immigration, il y a toujours demandé sous un gang, sous un social. Un peu de monde par contre pour qui ça. Il y a besoin qu'on ait dans qui.
And so a lot of cases fail because people say that they're scared because delinquents harm them or criminals harm them.
Oh, un peu de monde application est tombée parce que réponse sur bail là, on a dit oh, il y a un crime, que quoi Haïti, on a dit oh, il y a un criminel dans la rue.
And it's the applicant's burden.
Non, non, il y a 5 catégories qui appliquées à Salom. Parce que à Salom, ce n'est pas quand on a fil à Salom. Il faut qu'on ait une catégorie tombée. Parce que Jean-Monsieur a dit qu'il faut préparer. Et qu'il a là dans tout, puis ouais, dans quelle catégorie tomber. Est-ce que c'est politique? Est-ce que tu es dans la politique Haïti, ou parti ou pour exil? Ou qu'on a plus haïtien de c'est exil. Mais il y a des gens au Mexique, c'est cocktail drug qui a tué. Il y a plusieurs catégories. Il y a une là de leur fin raconter l'histoire pour avocat dire qu'on tombe dans la catégorie, ça il y a l'application qui est appropriée. Pour pas dire c'est politique et puis là aller ou parler de pas manger ou manger au grand goût.
Ok. Ça veut dire, même si vous gagnez pour le temps, c'est pas moi-même qui ai 10 ans ici.
Oh, he said he has 10 years living in the United States. Can they apply for asylum?
So if you are, for asylum, you have 1 year to apply to get asylum. Asylum is a form of relief that grants you lawful permanent resident status.
Okay, the 1 year, is it from the time you come to the United
Yes.
States? Or is it un an? depuis jour rentré, il y a eu bon 1 an pour faire application.
There are
So he wants to know he's not eligible.
so there are exceptions to the 1 year if you hold another type of valid status. So let's say you came in, you applied for TPS, and you have TPS. Potentially, you could argue for a 1-year exception.
Il dit qu'il y a une catégorie, il y a une exception, dans toute rôle, il y a une exception. En tant que souvenir de TPS, ou toujours appliquer. Quand il y a une exception, il y a un cas qui
That exception will have to be approved by either the officer or the judge.
L'exception, ça c'est ou bien officier ou bien juge là qui a dit ok, il accepte. Okay, like in his case.
If there's nothing, like, yeah, if you came in and you never applied for anything, you may not qualify for asylum because there's a 10-year issue, but you could qualify for other forms of asylum. It's asylum-related relief, like protection. You'd still be able to live in the U.S., work in the U.S. The only thing is you wouldn't be able to request any of your family members to come. You wouldn't be able to get lawful permanent resident status.
Si vous avez 10 ans ici, vous n'avez pas un petit bout de papier dans la main, par exemple, fait TPS, par exemple, fait rien. Donc, vous avez une forme dans le salon que vous avez gagné pour arrêter, mais vous n'avez pas amener personne. Donc, vous avez dit que mon TPS a amené dans le programme Biden, vous n'êtes pas capable parce que vous avez 10 ans. Mais vous avez TPS. He has TPS.
He's had TPS for 10 years.
Combien d'années vous avez de TPS?
Ça fait 3 années.
3
fois.
Ça fait 6 ans? 6 years.
6 years.
You renew it for 3 times.
Okay. It would really depend, and you should have that really evaluated by a lawyer because you don't want to put yourself into proceeding. You don't want to put yourself into a situation where you may end up in court if you don't have a really strong case. There are other forms of relief if you've been here for 10 years and you have children or lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen children or spouses or parents, where you could request for a cancellation of removal. And that does give you lawful permanent status and it stops your removal.
Dans le cas ça, il faut ajouter un avocat pour garder le bien pour vous. Parce que vous ne pouvez pas faire le papier, après ça, qu'on a pour aller en court, et puis pour aller la vie plus mal pour vous. À moins que vous ayez des gens qui sont citoyens, tant que maman ou papa, petit, tout est fait ici, ils ont même eu cahier dans l'application. Mais pas faire rien, tout on va un avocat pour analyser. Okay, can I ask, what about those Biden people? They're already 2 years and they all going to file for asylum now.
Yeah, so if it's like 2 years, they came with parole, they had valid status, that is technically an exception to the 1 year as long as they file within a reasonable time after that parole expired.
Oh, okay.
If you came, had unlawful presence, then got TPS, and you've been here for 6 years, 7 years, it may be a little bit more difficult to show why you qualify for an exception when you could have filed when you initially entered.
Okay. Tant que mon Biden, qu'on y a presque tout le monde pour le faire pour asylum, ça sont cas exceptionnels quand quelqu'un doit considérer eux, mais si vous avez 5 ans, 6 ans, pas de faire rien pour ça, qu'on y a pour le faire. So, okay. So, what are you going to advise those people? Okay, they here, they file for TPS. So TPS is like a 2 years, but we don't know what Trump going to do. Is it better to, even if they have the TPS, file for asylum to get the 5 years? Or with
I would
year?
say the first thing you should do if you have TPS and you're worried about it expiring is go seek a lawyer and bring all of your documents because every person's situation is going to be different.
But they all Biden. They come with the poll program.
But maybe they have family members here. Maybe they have a child during those 2 years. Maybe they got.
Like a loophole, so that's why it's like best to contact them because they can kind of like see other avenues.
Yeah, there is no one size fits all for immigration. Everyone's case is different. Like when you go to a doctor, right? You're not like, oh, my friend has the same. They want to evaluate that person too. And that's how immigration law is. Every person needs to be evaluated to see, like, sometimes, like I said, sometimes, like that woman came to me, she didn't know she had a stamp in her passport. and she filed for asylum. And it was like 6 years into asylum. She was married to a U.S. citizen, and they didn't know that they could just apply. So having your case evaluated is so beneficial, because sometimes you don't know everything about the law. Some lawyers don't even know everything about the law. So just having it evaluated, I would say that's the first step.
Si ka kou gon problem, n'importe question gen pou immigration li mieux ou un avocat que ou guest ou bien ou
And if you want, I would, if you want to do a consultation, I will do a free consultation with you. If you want to have your case evaluated, like for anyone here, I'll extend that.
gratis. Pour nous-mêmes qui là seulement. Pas venir tout Elisabeth là-dedans.
Juste seulement pour évaluer
Case là.
Just seulement pour évaluer.
Usually, how much it costs per case?
It depends what has to be done.
Like for asylum, for example.
It depends on, like, I usually go over that after I evaluate the case to
Case,
see, is it with USCIS, is it with the courts, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So, like when you give them the price, is everything included, the fee for the forms and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
And with asylum, there is no fee, and there's no fee the first time you file for your work authorization.
Oh,
Oh, you mean when somebody files for asylum, they don't have to pay any fee for the USCIS?
No.
It's just the immigration, just the fee.
Yeah, just the lawyer fee, yep. The first time you file work authorization is also it's free.
it's free.
You just mentioned about something about the stamp on the passport. But I have my brother. He married to a citizen. But when he tried to, his wife tried to file for him, they said something about the I-94 he got when he got the across the border. They said it's not the good one. I don't know what they mean by that. I didn't see it yet. They told me yesterday.
Oh, you go online and look for it.
There
Yeah,
is,
they said there is a I-94, but the person who was talking to said, no, this is not the one. This case is a bit more complicated.
so there's there's a lot of different types of parole, which make it very confusing. You would have to look at the section of law. So there's some parole where if a person's detained, ICE can parole them out of detention. That parole is different than when you're coming in, CBP stamping you and paroling you in, or even ICE can parole you in. So the section of law, it's 212D. If they're not stamped under that, and they're not designated as arriving aliens, then the parole may have been just to get out of jail, so there are those distinctions with the parole. And sometimes it's not even the passport. They issue, they fingerprint them, they take a picture, and they issue a sheet, and they stamp that sheet.
Yeah, I guess he said there's a piece of paper they give him.
Mhm.
So at the time it was coming was when they have an organization. And
Who told them it was more complicated? Did-
he told me yesterday. He was
Yeah.
talking to I guess his wife was trying to talk to somebody about the case, and then they say that when you come in, the I-94 is not the correct one. But for him, when he get to Mexico, he wasn't because they get involved in the accident.
Yeah.
The organization took them from there, bring them in United States. We're not even paying the ticket for them. The organization taking care of everything since he get to my brother's house.
He should have that stamp about, to check to see if it is designated as an arriving. Because if he's designated as an arriving, he doesn't have to leave the U.S. He still has an avenue. He would just have to leave with the waiver, because his wife can do the waiver for him.
Because that's why I thought
Yeah.
how to apply.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to leave.
I have one question. If you have the TPS and you apply for asylum, is one cancel the other one?
No, TPS, you can have TPS even if you have an order of removal or deportation. So they can both coincide. sometimes maybe they don't want to do the asylum case if you have TPS, but you can apply for both, and you should be able to go through with both, because asylum is a permanent form of relief and TPS is not.
Oh,
Yeah. I thank everybody for coming, and thank you for having me. It was a very good conversation.
No, thanks to you.
And I give props to you for being here. Seriously. A future lawyer.
Ok, une question avant de terminer. Est-ce que, vous avez un frère le fait que mon s'est perdu la météo, étant donné qu'il y a pas de détails d'information, quand il a dit, la fille pour nous, en fait, que tu sais, plusieurs, toi, comme ça, quand il y a, est-ce que, vous t'as préférable de quelqu'un pour nous, ou bien nous le faire pour nous, parce que je dis, il y a un qui est rapide que dans le geste.
It's faster if your mother reapplies for citizenship and do it that way. Right now, I don't know when she filed, but it takes maybe 6 to 8 months to get an appointment right now for naturalization. So when she gets